Imagine being a student, you're talking to one of your friends, and you're saying, and you're being like so loud that the teacher just kicks you out into the office. And then you say under your breath, "She kicking me out because I'm Mexican." It's exactly what happened to this student which you're about to meet. He gets kicked out for talking in class, but he says he got only sent out because he was Spanish. Being painted prejudice? Let's take a look at this one.
Michael, why are you here?
Miss Calacino sent me out.
Tell me what happened in Miss Calacino's class.
Well, she gave our class a privilege to speak since we didn't have any work. Me and one of my other friends started kind of speaking to someone across the room. And then I was sitting on my desk when she told me to stay outside.
And then what was the comment you made after that? What did you say to her?
Miss Calacino?
Mm-hmm.
Say anything, Miss Calacino.
You didn't say anything to Miss Calacino. No, there's not a little detail that we're leaving out, Mike? She doesn't throw people out of class, Mike. Okay?
I told men, maybe I told him it was because I was Spanish.
Loud enough for Miss Calacino to hear it.
I don't think so.
Well, she heard it.
She was supposed to hear it.
You know, you start something like that, and that's how all the rumors start. But we don't do rumors in this building, especially not about teachers. You're capable of better, Mike, and I expect better. You know where detention is, right? Any reason we can't be in detention today? And we'll make sure it doesn't happen again, right? And I expect when you see Miss Calacino that you'll straighten things out with her. So next time I see her, she'll tell me that, you know what? Mike was man enough, he came to me and he apologized for what he said. Okay? All right. Go to class.
I guess I have to go speak to my teacher now and apologize. I don't mind. It's whatever.
It's not whatever. Who gives you the right to disrespect a teacher? Nobody. Nobody gives you the right to disrespect a teacher. Nobody ever gives you the right to disrespect a teacher. Just because you don't like a teacher, that doesn't give you the right to disrespect the teacher. No ifs, ands, buts, excuse about it. I don't care if she picks on you. If you're going to accuse her of picking on you, know what you need to do? You need to speak to your principal immediately and get evidence and proof that he or she is picking on you. Period. Don't go out of your way to call your teacher a racist or call her a bitch, a dumb hoe, or any other slur. That's going to get you in a lot of trouble, get you in school suspension, detention, or even suspended. It's just not that simple than wearing mittens to school all day.
I found a student, Ron, who has been wearing mittens all throughout the school day, and the teacher asked him to take them off, and he refused.
Ron, my teacher asked me to take off the gloves because it's gang related and because it's not allowed in school. And then I started arguing with her saying, I know it's not true. And I said, I'm not going to take them off. And then she said she's going to write me up in the referral. And then I said, just go ahead and do it.
Hey, Ron, what do you think the temperature is in the school?
I don't know.
About 70, 72, 73?
I guess, yeah.
Why wear mittens?
Because I like it.
You afraid of germs that you could touch on a locker in the bathroom or something?
No. Like you go to New York or Hackensack, anywhere else, that's normal.
Will they have the mittens posse down there?
No, just
If I was walking around school all day, wearing those, would I stick out?
I guess you would, yeah.
But here's the problem, Ron. Teacher asked you to take them off and you refused, and you became argumentative. Then you can't do that, Ron. If you're told to do something, you do it, and then you bring it up with us. All right, Ron, you don't have detention after school. 90 minutes tomorrow. You gonna wear your gloves in detention?
No.
Take them off and give them to me. Bye-bye.
Okay. Well, I'm here all saying what the heck is argumentative. There's a difference between insubordination and being argumentative. Insubordination means a failure to comply with a reasonable request. Whereas the definition of argumentative is given to expressing of divergent opposite views or using a characterized by synthetic reasoning. So argumentative is another word for divergent. So that's the difference between insubordination and argumentative. Take your pick. And even then, you won't even then you'll be calling for a principal's laws even if you are a parent as an adult. Still ahead, our second look into a two-part second look into obesity. Peter Jennings with How to Not Get Fat Without Really Trying. It's a two-parter which is going to happen today and tomorrow, so stay with us. Over 2/3 of Americans are obese or fat. Almost 1 in 3 Americans is obese. Everyone wants to exercise, and nobody wants to get thinner. And yet, old and young Americans are getting fatter and fatter and fatter. We all think it's our own fault. Ain't that simple. The food industry is at fault. As we first showed you last season or 2 seasons ago, we had to blame the government for how to get fat without really trying. And as we take our second look into this program, you too can decide whether we should blame the government or ourselves. Here's Peter Jennings.
We went first to the farmlands of America where the food chain begins. During the harvest season here, fertile soil and hard work pay off with an agricultural abundance that feeds the nation and the world. And here in Millersport, Ohio, people celebrate the harvest in a traditional way. The Millersport Sweet Corn Festival attracts 50,000 people to the music, the pageants, and of course, the corn. This is a celebration of American agriculture.
We as Americans spend less of our disposable income on food than anybody else on the face of this globe. And it's because our farmers are very efficient. They've worked with their government to be able to not only be efficient and effective in what they do, but also produce an incredible product.
It's the first time in mankind's history that you haven't have to worry about food. We're the envy of the world in our agricultural system.
But the story of American agriculture is also one of unintended consequences. Today, American farmers produce for domestic consumption vastly more food than America needs, nearly twice as much. And the more food we grow, the more we eat. Abundance has become the enemy.
When I first started studying nutrition, it never occurred to me that I need to know anything at all about agriculture. Now I see it as the basis of everything having to do with nutrition. If you want to understand why people eat the way they do, you need to understand the way agriculture works in this country.
To begin with, agriculture works in America through farm subsidies. During the Depression in the 1930s, government began subsidizing farmers to save them from financial ruin. The money never stopped. This year, government will put roughly $20 billion into agriculture, most of it directly to the farmers. And not many people in the government have made the connection between subsidies to agriculture and obesity. But there is one, and it's very important.
Does the government take dietary guidelines and nutritional concerns into consideration when it's making those grants?
There's no concern whatsoever. There's no link between agricultural subsidies and health. In fact, we've been trying to find analyses of what is the health impact of the farm subsidies. We can't find a single study. Congress, the administration, is handing out these subsidies without knowing what is the ultimate impact on their constituents, the American public.
The Bush administration's man in charge of public health is Health and Human Services Secretary Tommy Thompson.
Do you see any connection between the federal government's agricultural subsidy programs and nutrition?
I really don't. Because the subsidy programs are things that are done through Congress, much more so than trying to come up with an overall strategy as far as nutrition is concerned.
Well, do you see a connection between the money which government gives to agriculture and nutrition? Do you see a connection?
There's no question that if you have money out there and subsidizing particular things, that product is going to be grown more. And some of those products are not good for nutrition. If that's what you're asking me, yes.
This is the food pyramid, the government's guide to good nutrition, what we should be eating. Less of what is on top, sugars, fats, and then meats and dairy, and more of what's on the bottom, grains and fresh fruits and vegetables.
Of the total amount of money that supports American agriculture, how much of that money goes towards fruits and vegetables, both production and promotion?
You'd have to look at the percentage as less than 1%, minimal products.
We wanted to see what the food pyramid would look like if it reflected where the government farm subsidies actually end up. Look at this. Since 1995, meat and dairy got about 3 times the subsidies of grains. According to data from the Department of Agriculture and the Environmental Working Group, fats and oils, the foods government says we should eat least, got about 20 times more subsidies than fruits and vegetables.
There's a disconnect between agricultural policy and health policy. That's probably the biggest problem that the federal government faces. We don't look at how agricultural policy can help improve public health. It's strictly about subsidies.
And does government know this?
Government knows it. I'm not sure government at the moment knows what to do about it. How do you undo government policy that has not been focused on health and nutrition, but has been focused on subsidizing farmers?
The most heavily subsidized crop in America is corn. Farmers plant nearly 80 million acres of corn, and in the last 5 years, they got an average of $5.5 billion in federal subsidies every year.
On your mark. Get set, eat!
When most of us think of corn, we do tend to think of the sweet corn they're eating here at the Millersport Festival.
It don't get any better than this, bud. Lost the tooth. Lost the tooth. Unbelievable.
But there is another way to think of corn, not as corn on the cob, but as cheap raw material for the giant food industry.
The vast majority of corn is feed corn. It's fed to chickens, hogs, and especially cattle. That corn helps these animals grow faster, fatter, and holds down the costs of meat. That encourages Americans to eat more meat.
Of course, beef cattle were never intended to eat corn, and so they have to be given all sorts of antibiotics to keep them healthy. Subsidized corn is everywhere. The whole food system has been, as someone said, cornified. Corn is processed and put into thousands of products that Americans use every day.
There you go, good soap.
If you want to see more directly how farm subsidies can lead to obesity, there is no better place than your local theater. The popcorn you eat here is made with subsidized corn.
One large popcorn? Sure.
The popcorn is so inexpensive that the bag it comes in costs more than the popcorn. That's why you can buy the mega size for just a few pennies more. The oil they cook it in is subsidized too, and so is the oil they put on top. That is not usually butter, but subsidized vegetable oil. And there's corn in the soda, a corn-derived sweetener called high fructose corn syrup. Since the 1970s, its use has gone up more than 4,000%. Subsidized corn sweeteners, which have pretty much taken over from sugar, are in candy and pretzels and some hot dogs too.
Is there something else I can get you tonight, like a hot dog or a nice warm pretzel?
Here's something else to know about obesity. Americans consume nearly 3 times more corn in the form of corn sweeteners than they do in every other form.
Corn is the principal source of sweeteners in American diets. So what these subsidies do is to lower the cost of the ingredients that go in processed foods, particularly high-calorie processed foods, and they make those foods cheaper.
Currently, the government subsidizes corn, and more corn, and very little fresh fruits and vegetables.
But corn is a staple that is not only used for food, it's also used for the tremendous animal industry that we have in this country. So it's important that corn continues to grow in America.
Do you believe we should plant less corn and more fruits and vegetables?
Well, that you can't make that determination from Washington, D.C.
The government already controls the way food is grown, processed, and consumed in this country. There are already government policies that are involved in every aspect of the food chain, from production to consumption. We want the government to be involved in personal eating behavior in a more helpful way.
Here's another example of a massive government subsidy which contributes to obesity: soybeans. Most of the soy that people eat is not in its healthy form, such as soy protein, but in the form of oil, including cooking oil and margarine. Soybean oil is the largest source of added fats in the American diet. As for fruits and vegetables, if Americans were to follow a healthy diet, the Department of Agriculture says that nearly twice the number of acres of fruits and vegetables would have to be planted.
Why do you think fruits and vegetables do get so little support from the federal government?
Oh, I guess you could say our lobbyists aren't as good. Maybe we haven't had the tradition.
Do you mean that? Other aspects, other divisions of the food industry are better lobbyists than you?
We've not had traditional subsidy programs, so there's not an ingrained group in Congress that's there fighting for the program, fighting for the fruit and vegetable program.
We're talking about huge agribusiness companies that own thousands, hundreds of thousands of acres. And these are, of course, the people who give the largest campaign contributions to members of Congress.
It does make you think twice about all the symbols of agricultural abundance that we see in the nation's capital. A reminder of how important subsidies are in the political system and how hard it will be to change that, whatever the impact on the nation's health.
Do you hold the Congress accountable for subsidizing the wrong foods?
No, I do not. I think that is a decision that Congress makes, and I'm not going to criticize Congress on the decisions they make as far as food products.
Why do you think no one in government has made the connection between agricultural policy and obesity?
I really don't think it's as you have stated it, Peter. I don't think that there's any direct correlation out there that agriculture policy has been set up in some insidious way to subsidize things that are going to be bad for our health.
I didn't suggest it was insidious. I'm suggesting that there is a possibility that government subsidizes more food which you would say, as the country's leading health officer, is bad for us, and subsidizes less those foods which you would tell us are good for us and we should eat.
And that has also been throughout the ages, and Congress has made those decisions, and they're political ones, as you know, Peter, and I don't think you're going to change the political arena as far as subsidizing agriculture in America in the near future.
Well, the Secretary is probably right. But with so many voters in the country desperately trying to lose weight, you might think some clever politician would devise an "I'll make you thinner" platform. It would at least question for the first time how federal agriculture policy helps to make us fat. We'll be back in just a minute.
When we come back, we're going to tell you the fast food items and the ways you can lose weight. Please do this. we're turning to our second look into obesity. Try going to a supermarket and you may find some processed foods for your kids. Advertisers, commercials can even influence your kids to eat junk food. That's what drives us to eat junk food. And even more the popcorn. So, the question is, why would kids be influenced by eating more junk food and less of the healthy foods? Again, Peter Jennings.
Americans probably don't think very much about government food policies when they're in the supermarket, but maybe they should.
The cheapness of the food ingredients encourages the food industry to produce processed foods that sit on supermarket shelves, have very cheap ingredients, and can be sold at high prices because they're branded.
Processed foods are typically made from a mixture of sugar, water, flour, starch, fat, artificial colorings and flavorings. And you can make almost anything out of that. Puddings, snack foods, beverages. Those are dirt cheap to produce. The food is nothing. It's the processing. That's where the profits are.
A typical supermarket may have 30, 40, 50,000 products, most of it processed food made with government-subsidized ingredients. In 2002, supermarkets sold $174 billion worth of processed food.
Food industries pushed on mass distribution of low-cost products. That's a strategy.
Jim Tillotson is a professor, but in the 1970s he worked for the Ocean Spray Company.
For years, my favorite drink was orange juice, but cranberry juice cocktail is a smashing new taste.
Tillotson figured out how to make more money by replacing expensive ingredients in Ocean Spray products, like real fruit juice, without people noticing.
You could make a drink that was very good, probably more inexpensively, by using some fruit juice, sugar and water, and a very fine flavor system, and people couldn't tell the difference.
Since sugar was expensive, Tillotson turned to that inexpensive, subsidized corn sweetener, high fructose corn syrup.
So we were able to reduce the price and be profitable. And as a matter of fact, at the time I brought my wife a Volvo, we always refer to it as a sugar wagon, because my bonus came from being able to save the company a lot of money using high fructose corn syrup. People ask me, well, weren't you concerned about eventually the people would get fat from this? It never crossed our mind. Absolutely never crossed our mind.
With obesity on our minds, we went to the Food Marketing Institute's annual convention in Chicago. This is where the packaged food industry unveils its new products.
It's chock-enormous. It is chock-enormous.
All those subsidized farm ingredients are being turned into products like these.
There's a half a pound of meat in each jar.
Microwaves in 6 minutes. These are interactive beverages.
It actually is a product designed to emulate chewing tobacco.
It's a Latino-inspired beverage.
We couldn't quite believe what we were seeing here. Thousands of new products.
What I like to say is Yoo-hoo is like an everyday sort of thing, 3 or 4 times a day, whereas your Yoo-hoo double fudge is more like a dessert.
Free samples, we're giving them away today.
And while a lot of the products looked familiar to us, everyone was telling us that they had the newest thing.
We have over 100 new products.
It's white with a little tropical flavor, and for us, that little sense of newness.
When you look at all the products introduced by the industry in recent years, one thing is absolutely clear. The vast majority are foods that Americans should be eating less.
Meal dessert. So it's like your post-Yoo-hoo Yoo-hoo.
If you look at the new foods that are being marketed each year, probably 90% of them are packaged foods, very often junk foods. The tip of that food pyramid, what you should eat less of.
Last year, there were more than 2,800 new candies, desserts, ice creams, and snacks, and 230 new fruit or vegetable products.
When we were looking at the mix of products your industry has introduced in the past 10 or 15 years, it looks like you are giving people a greater choice of food which government mostly thinks are unhealthy for them, and less choice of those which are healthy for them.
I think that the food industry is providing a wide variety of choice, and certainly if you look at some of the recent market trends, you're seeing a major increase in the good-for-you foods category.
Well, here's what we found. Of all the products introduced last year, thousands of them, only 131 of them even claim to be reduced or low in calories. And the more of these top of the pyramid, low nutrition, high calorie foods they introduce, the more of them we eat.
In the 60s and 70s, we consumed healthy snacks. Kids consumed milk, we consumed fruit, we consumed what you would think of as really good foods. What's changed in the last decade is we're consuming high-fat, salty snacks. That could be tortilla chips or potato chips. It could be kind of candies and desserts and so forth. We've really changed the nature of what we call a snack.
You can go into any grocery store, into any restaurant. You can buy the diet soda if you want to. You can buy the low-fat alternatives. You can buy the smaller portion if you want to.
Rick Berman runs the Center for Consumer Freedom, funded by the restaurant industry.
Just look what this reckless cookie-baking business has done to my life.
They have been running advertisements criticizing those who criticize the food industry.
You make it taste good on purpose, don't you?
I guess so.
Learn more about lawyers cashing in on obesity.
What the food companies are doing is just responding to consumer demand.
Is it, as far as you're concerned, entirely a matter of personal choice and not at all a matter of marketing?
Well, ultimately, it is a matter of personal choice. I mean, we can't dictate what people choose to eat. So yes, at some point, what people choose to eat or how they choose to move is ultimately the issue here.
Of course, what you eat is a personal decision. The overweight and obesity epidemics are a result of people choosing to eat more, eat larger portions, and eat more often. Americans are choosing foods with more sweeteners and more calories. They're drinking more sodas, eating more candy, and snacking all day long.
Don't you think the food industry is simply giving people the products they want?
I don't think that you can talk about giving the public what the public wants without discussing the $33 billion a year that the food industry spends to try to promote that kind of want.
Do we need anything else here?
If you were going to design a strategy to try to get people to eat more food, you'd make food more convenient, you'd make it ubiquitous, you'd encourage people to eat more frequently on more different eating occasions, and you'd encourage them to eat larger portions. And all of those are deliberate strategies to sell more food.
In the last 20 years, you have increased the size of your products. You have increased the number of products you introduce. You have increased the marketing of your product. Are these not strategies designed to get people to eat more?
No, they're strategies to respond to what people's needs are today. I think that the industry is acting very responsibly to try to bring these products to market in a responsible way and to make sure that what they're offering fits into people's healthy diets.
Working the pounds off, it's Good Morning America's Lock the Door, Lose the Weight.
Americans talk a lot about being fit and thinner. Americans spend billions of dollars every year on diets and exercise.
Reach and pull good.
There are thousands of exercise videos, machines, gadgets, gimmicks, all designed to help us lose the weight we put on by eating too much.
How about butt squeeze?
Oh.
And for the food industry, exercise is a convenient answer to obesity.
I think people do need to exercise more. And not just exercise, because when you think of exercise, it often seems like it's more than you can fit into your very busy day. But you can pick small steps.
Obesity is not going to be solved through sheer physical activity. The food industry would like to blame everything on lack of exercise. Eat as much as you want, exercise it off. Go out and buy a bike or play basketball with your kid. We should do that, but that's only part of the battle.
And here is why. You have to jog for 15 minutes to burn just 1 ounce of potato chips. You have to bike for an hour to burn the calories in this soda. And this supersized meal at McDonald's has so many calories, you have to walk for 6 hours to burn it off. It is hard to see how exercise alone is the solution to obesity. And one food company appears to get it.
We need to be part of the solution. We need to try to make a difference here.
If you need to be part of the solution, does this mean you're part of the problem?
I think food is part of the problem.
Michael Mudd is a senior vice president at Kraft, the largest American food processor. They make Triscuits and Oreos and Oscar Mayer products, among other things.
What do you think the right public policy is, do you think it has as its bottom line, eat less?
If you ask the question, should America be eating less? Definitely we should be eating less, especially if we're not going to increase our activity.
We would not support a move to eat less because that's not going to solve the problem. Simply suggesting to people that you eat less food really is, I think, it's not the approach to take.
Given what you do for a living, isn't that rather self-serving?
Well, our message is eat a balanced diet, eat foods that are at the top of the pyramid in moderation, and get some activity in your life.
Kraft's approach is different. The company has proposed a wholesale review of all their products and their marketing because they know obesity is an epidemic.
What we'll do is go category by category, product by product, to look for small but meaningful opportunities to improve the nutrition. What's the definition of meaningful? Let's say I have a reduced fat product that takes out 5 grams versus the original, and 10 people choose that product. So on a population-wide basis, we've saved 50 grams of fat. But if I take the regular version of that product and I remove 1 gram of fat, and I do it in a way that doesn't affect the taste, and now 90 people choose that product, on a population-wide basis, I've saved 90 grams of fat. And that's my definition of a meaningful change.
In other words, making every product a little healthier would have an effect on more people.
And then we also have roasted garlic.
Public health experts say that it could help if Kraft follows through.
Pick up your chips over at Unilever ice cream, Unilever best food, and...
But counting on voluntary measures by the food industry to improve the American diet is something of a gamble.
Let's find ourselves a winner.
After all, their job is to sell more food, and it is hard to imagine the companies sacrificing their profits for the benefits of public health.
You're lucky. Yeah, you're feeling lucky.
What the food companies are worried about now is that there will be a public backlash against their products. And so they're all scrambling to try to figure out what to do. If the public starts eating less, that's going to be bad for business, and there's no getting around that.
Eat less means that we're not going to buy as much product. It goes all the way down the chain. The supermarkets, the restaurants, the food manufacturers, agriculture. We're not going to need as much product. And that's going to be a very difficult lesson to get through.
We have said from the outset that the processed food industry is very smart and will adapt as it sees fit when there is public pressure. Look at all the low-fat products they've introduced. Trouble is, when the companies take out the fat, they often put in more sweeteners, which means more calories. So since all those products with reduced fat came on the market, Americans have actually put on more weight.
Low fat equals low fat. But what else needs to be? Because more sweeteners. You put low fat, you add more sweeteners. So what's the big deal? When we return, we're going to take a second look into obesity by looking at the total number of obese people that happened last year and what the goal is going to be for this year. Stay with us. Now some new developments in a story that we're still focusing in on. 3 years ago, we focused in on we focused on the Oxford school shooting in Oxford, Michigan. Ethan Crumley was charged with 4 counts of murder. The parents, Jennifer and James, were charged with involuntary manslaughter. All 3 of them have been sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole. Now the very latest. The Michigan Now just released an article just hours ago. Jennifer Crumley requested a new trial, but that new trial will not happen. According to the article, judge mostly denies a new trial for Oxford school shooter's mother, but here's arguments. According to the article, this week a judge in Oakland County denied most of the reasons for filing for Jennifer Crumley, the mother of the Oxford school shooter, to get a new trial. Friday, oral arguments were heard to see if Crumley could be acquitted based on allegations regarding the case's discovery phase. The motion filed by Crumley's attorney alleges that discovery violations regarding preferred agreements were made between the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office and 2 employees of the Oxford School District. The judge did not make a decision on Friday, but is set to issue a written ruling at a later date regarding Carmen's request to acquittal a new trial. The son is serving life sentence for the shooting and killed 4 or 7 others. She and her husband were first parents in U.S. history to be victims of a crime. Whichever criminals were in prison for involuntary manslaughter, and also the judge. So, this was an hour long, and coming up next week, we're going to play for you that thing. And we're going to have more Give Me a Break in just a moment. Tonight, we are taking a second look into obesity and how it affected last year, as well as the 20 years it happened, and what we're looking ahead to this year. This, like I said in the beginning, it's a two-parter. So we're taking a second look into the Peter Jennings report that happened 21 years ago, and we're going to finish part 2 on tomorrow's show. So here's the question. With obesity being happening, how was the number for obesity landed this year, last year, and what are we looking forward to this year? Well, you see, that is a very good question. So in order to answer that question, you may need to rely on some experts. We gotta look at the rate of obesity. So let's look back at last year, and then jump back to 2023. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the obesity rate in the United States between 2021 and 2023 was estimated at 40.3%. That means 4 in 10 adults in the country are considered obese. It remains relatively stable in recent years, with a slight decrease in 3 years. That's from 2017 to probably during the pandemic. 41.9%. It's important to note that the rates of obesity has been increasing. Now, what about this year? What can we expect? So, if there was a chart, we would look at that rate, and then we'd probably raise some common sense about it, right? Well, yeah. I mean, we gotta look at the food pyramid. You know, the top is where we eat less. The bottom, we should be eating more. So we should be eating less fats and oils, and more fats and oils, and probably more fresh fruits and fresh vegetables, right? Absolutely. But look at the bigger picture here. The processed foods. We buy processed foods because we like them. You know, Oreos, Chips Ahoy, those snack cookies. Do you remember you working in school in health class and you had to watch Super Size Me? I remember that. If you were in class, in health class, and you were learning all about obesity, you would have to watch Super Size Me. That would take a 2-day thing because the class is shortened. Every single class had to watch that. Then they would take notes. And something like the Peter Jennings report would even raise eyebrows. And even look at the state of obesity. We have to look at the rates. So what's going to happen now in 2025, now that New Year is still approaching, which we're 1 month in? All right, we'll stop there. But what we have to do is to make sure that, you know, we make better choices in our lives. if we look at by state from last year, the highest one ever has to be in West Virginia, which was at 41.2%. Years ago, Houston, Texas was one of the fattiest cities ever, and one state had to require physical education. You can leave that up to yourselves and watch it besides me. We would show it to you, but then I do not want to get demonetized for showing you that, other than it being for educational purposes. So we'll just leave it at that. So what can we do? As Americans, we need to make better choices in life. You know, your friends ask you, what's your New Year's resolution? And you flat out the blue say, I'm going to lose weight. And yet losing weight, you sit there and say, I'm going to lose weight. And yet you sit your fat ass on the couch, and all of a sudden you see something like this. You think it's cool? You need to, like an report said, we spend millions of dollars on exercise equipment, exercise videos, and rarely we don't get it done. It's one of the common New Year's resolutions, but the lowest one ever is going to be in Nebraska. What about this year? Is West Virginia going to still be going high, or are we going to have a new state on the highest level? Well, if people start making the right choices, then maybe we won't have to be looking at the bigger picture here. So what's the bottom line? We eat healthy. We stay out of the fast food places. We eat fresh fruits and vegetables. More fresh fruits and vegetables and more grains. Find a healthy meal alternative. I mean, you gotta look at the bigger picture here. Stay away from all that soda. Stay away from all the processed foods. That's the kind of stuff that's going to get you obese. And even then, you wouldn't even have to be hitting that treadmill if you were just sitting there and walking on the treadmill while you're eating some McDonald's. But what about advertising? How is that going to play a role in getting the kids to stop eating healthy? When we come back, we're going to look into the advertisements into the processed foods that are reaching to the minds of lots of children. You may be surprised as a parent to learn what your child is eating, even when you think it's really too expensive. So give it some thought, and please stay with us. Well, we have now run out of time, but like I said before in this broadcast, this is going to be a two-parter second look. Coming up tomorrow, we're going to look at the advertisements that are going into these processed foods. How is that going to help solve the rate of obesity? And what's going to happen now with all the minds of the kids? As we look deeper into and even then, schools have to be looking into this and showing it in the minds of lots of children. So it wouldn't even be a problem. So that's what you gotta say to yourself. So look for part 2 next time. That's all for this edition of Give Me a Break Friday going to Saturday. We'll see you again for Give Me a Break Saturday night. For all of us here on YouTube and Give Me a Break, I urge you to stop bullying and speak up. Concentration, not strength. No jaywalking. It's your body and your choice. Good night.